Thank you everyone for joining us. I'll hand over to my ambassador who would like to make a few short remarks, and then we'll have time for one or two questions. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Mungo. Good afternoon, everybody. We've just come from a Security Council meeting, and I'd like to make some short remarks. We requested this morning's meeting following further deterioration of the situation in Myanmar. As of today, more than 50 people have been killed and many more injured since the coup began. Over 1,000 people have disappeared or are unaccounted for. The economy is in a state of deterioration, and up to 1 million people face a humanitarian crisis. We heard from the Special Envoy that the Security Council, and indeed the international community more broadly, has a collective responsibility to safeguard the democratic aspirations of the people of Myanmar. The United Kingdom condemns the use of violence against peaceful protesters, calls for the immediate cessation of violence, and for those responsible to be held to account. Working with partners, the UK has recently sanctioned 9 military officers, including the Commander-in-Chief, for their role in the coup. We've also, as you know, conducted reviews of trade and aid to Myanmar. We'll be exploring further national sanctions and stand ready to consider possible measures under the UN Charter should the situation deteriorate further. We reiterate our calls on the Tatmadaw to respect the rule of law, to release all of those arbitrarily detained, lift the state of emergency, and all restrictions on rights and freedom with immediate effect. The United Kingdom supports the role of regional organisations, in particular ASEAN, in resolving the crisis. We'll continue to monitor closely the situation in Myanmar and consider further action through the Security Council in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. We now have a question from Philippe. Philippe, your question, please.
Thank you, Mungo. Hello, Ambassador. The Special Envoy called the Security Council for an urgent action. We hear that you prepare a PRST for next week. What about a resolution on sanction on arms embargo? Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. We are in discussion with our council partners about a council product, but we think it's very important that the council is able to speak with one voice, that we can call for an end to violence, the release of those arbitrarily detained, and a return to democracy. Thank you.
We have a question now from James. James
Bayes, Al Jazeera ambassador. So the council is now considering another statement, yet you came up with a statement a month ago. It had no effect whatsoever. The Special Envoy told you today that hope in the UN is waning, and the committee that represents the detained politicians, including Aung San Suu Kyi, has said they want targeted, robust sanctions and a total arms embargo. Why are you not considering those measures rather than just more words?
Well, thank you. As I said earlier, the UK has taken bilateral sanctions on individuals, on trade, and we have reviewed our aid. But as you know, from the UN point of view, any further measures would require agreement from all council members. So we'll continue to monitor the situation and take actions that the council can reach agreement on.
Sherwin, we have a question from you.
Thanks, Mungo. Sherwin Briceby, South African Broadcasting. I just want to sort of probe your statement, Ambassador, exploring further measures under the UN Charter, given that Russia and China have gone on the record to call this an internal affair, an internal matter, and that the international community should respect Myanmar's sovereignty. Just given the makeup of the council, should the people of Myanmar have any real expectation that it can actually produce the consensus position that you intimate about?
Thank you. I think it's worth remembering that on the 4th of February, the Council reached agreement on a unanimous statement, which was the first in a decade on these political issues. And China and Russia and India, all of us signed up to that statement, Vietnam as well, and that's a member of ASEAN. So I think the Council is very clear in its expectations that the military in Myanmar will release the prisoners, return to democratic process, respect freedom of the press and civil society. But as the situation has deteriorated, I think it's right that the Council return and consider the next steps. And that's what we were discussing today. Thank you.
So you don't see China and Russia as presenting roadblocks to any consensus position?
As I said earlier, we're in discussion with partners about a Council product, but it's important that the Council speak with one voice. So that's what we'll be pursuing. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ambassador.